Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this week I'm going to be giving a rundown of the new reinforcement rules for Infinity. In this video I'll talk about what it is, the rules, how it affects armies, and a quick example list. In the following weeks I'll look at Pano, Ariadna and Nomad reinforcements, as well as some lists for military orders, Caledonia and Cosmoflot. So if that sounds interesting, please remember to like and subscribe for more. So, what is reinforcements? Well, the quote from the doc sums it up pretty well. Reinforcements are a combat force that remains in reserve waiting for the right moment to join the fray, either supporting the main force or carrying out tasks such as rescue or evac missions, or attacking, hunting or chasing enemy units. This allows players to have a reinforcement section in their army list that can be deployed after suffering casualties or in the last game round. The Reinforcements extra modifies the player's turn sequence, adding a new request reinforcement step. This extra also modifies the structure of an army list to add the reinforcement section. So, in summary, it's a new add-on that adds a subsection to your list that will drop into play when a certain criteria is met. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Each faction basically has a small sectorial, to use existing terminology, worth of stuff to draw from for each army in a faction. So for example, Vanilla Nomad, Tunguska, Corregidor and Bakunin will get access to the same set of troops known as the Vipera Reaction Force in the lore. In the same way that all of Pan-Oceania will get the Code Capital reinforcements, so every Pano player will be bringing bolts. This looks to be the focus of the next online campaign and will probably prominently feature in ITS 15, but we're not sure as of writing, but hopefully as this video comes out we will eventually know more. But for now, let's talk about the rules as defined in the initial rulebook. With reinforcements, Infinity and Infinity army lists now have a main section and a reinforcement section. The main section is basically your usual list, but the reinforcement section is new. Some changes to the main section over the normal list is that it must include one trooper with a new comlink skill, which we'll discuss in a minute. The reinforcement section must include a total of 100 points and 2 SWC. This can be only deployed in the new step called Request Reinforcements within the tactical phase, which takes place after command tokens are spent, but before retreat and loss of lieutenant. What this means is that you can't use command tokens to swap replacement troopers over between groups, but you can prevent retreat with the additional points of troopers and prevent loss of lieutenant if you have chain of command coming in. When reinforcements arrive, they all must be deployed at once, and once deployed they will be part of a separate combat group. Reinforcement groups can only be formed from reinforcement troopers when list building. Troopers in reinforcement groups count towards the 15 model cap. However, comlinks can increase that number. Additionally, reinforcements have their own availability, except for characters who share it between their regular and reinforcement profile. When deploying the reinforcement section, you can create fire teams from the troopers without spending command tokens. However, you must respect the existing fire team limitation chart for the reinforcement section and the fire team limit count of the army. Generic and vanilla armies cannot create a fireteam core from reinforcements, but they do gain access to both duos and heresies with reinforcements. If you already have a fireteam of that type in play that you are planning on forming with your reinforcements, then you may cancel it for the new one. Additionally, reinforcement and normal troopers cannot link together, and army will denote reinforcement troopers. Until we get an FAQ or further clarification, after deployment it seems like your reinforcement section becomes open information. As such, reinforcement isn't really a gotcha mechanic like hidden deployments or marker states. Comlink is a new skill that is required to play reinforcements. It is not private, but fortunately the bearer does not need to be alive when reinforcements drop. There is a maximum of one comlink user per army. In its current form, it only really serves two functions. If the comlink skill denotes a number, then the player could increase the number of troopers they may take beyond 15, including reinforcements, by that number. This is cumulative with other mods or bonuses due to special skills or scenario rules. When the reinforcement section is deployed, the comlink trooper may move to any reinforcement combat group without spending a command token. In order to check if you may bring in your reinforcements. You, as the active player, count your victory points remaining, including the reinforcements. And if this is less than or equal to the requested reinforcement threshold, then you may deploy your reinforcements. You may also deploy your reinforcements in the third turn regardless. When you do so, you must place a drop pod token totally within your half of the table, with enough space to support its base, or in any areas in which both players have agreed that it's allowed to be deployed even if it doesn't fit. Your drop pod can be represented by a token or scenery like most mission elements. After this, all troopers, peripherals, deployable weapons and equipment must be deployed totally within the drop pod's zone of control and within your half of the table. Deployment is followed as normal, however you cannot deploy within buildings or closed scenery pieces such as objective rooms, or even those with doors and windows. You cannot deploy inside exclusion zones in those scenarios that have them, and confused deployment does not apply to reinforcement. This acts very similar to both infiltration and parachutists in some regards. Finally, here is the new table regarding the army points for different sized games, their reinforcement and their retreat values. It is important to note that request reinforcement values includes the cost of your reinforcements. As such, in the recommended point value game of 350 points, 250 points being in the main group, you must have 250 points of your 350 points left before you request reinforcements. Effectively, you need to lose 100 points to gain your 100 points of reinforcement. Having less than this 350 points technically means you will bring you closer to your reinforcements coming down, but let's not take that to the extreme. Rob Shepard has already done the meme. Next up, I'll show you a reinforcement list. So this is an example of a reinforcement list for Caledonia Highlander Army, which honestly was kind of rough. Caledonia is the kind of army you could use 17 slots in a regular game. So as you can see, I have two sections. The main sections consist of less than 250 points and 5 SWC, 2 combat troops, and 13 troopers. And I have my reinforcement section with less than 2 SWC and 100 points with 4 troopers. This leads me to a total of 17 troopers, and we can see that's possible thanks to my comlink +2 on the Group 2 volunteer. In my main section, I pretty much have a 300 point list pared down as much as I can reasonably do, but I have some method to this madness. The volunteer with my comlink is in a separate group, so I can swap him over to my reinforcements group when they come down, so they can have 5 orders plus the tactical awareness and NCO on some troopers. Additionally, I have a fair few aggressive and semi-disposable pieces that I can use to whittle down my opponent, but if I lose them, I do still have other options. McMurrah, Uxia, the Solo Grey, Galwegian and the Cararan are there to do the majority of the heavy lifting, but also essentially die if needed for the mission. I want them to live as long as possible to do as much damage as possible. The first two can seriously hamper my opponent if played right, and basically also render my reinforcements moot if I do enough damage with them. A thing I have noticed with reinforcement lists is going to be identifying your list's crumple zones, so you know what you may lose and what your reinforcements will have to fill in for or follow up on. It is still important to build a solid list in the 250 points, because luck or skill might not have you deploying your reinforcements until turn 3 or the worst time possible. As such, I have a fairly robust core, plenty of soloists and specialists to help me win games in all 3 rounds, and the reinforcement group can help me pick up any slack from lost rolls during a match. I don't have a Harris in my main list, but if I did, or if my core was damaged enough that I want it gone, I could sacrifice the pre-existing fire teams for the reinforcement one coming in, and give Bruant a better team or more troopers to move with my limited orders. The reinforcements group is a pretty robust affair with 2 shooters and a wide spread of specialists to get whatever classified or mission objective bonuses done, or do clear out and hold objectives. Hopefully this example list just kind of puts it all into perspective. And that was my video on the new reinforcement rules. Hopefully you found that informative and enjoyable. I know not everyone sort of understands rules when they read them, and some may need an example or it explained to them. If you did like the video, remember to like and subscribe for more. And thank you so much for watching.